This week's episode of Shogun was insane. With the finale steadily approaching, we see the story heat up with some major plot developments and a huge course correction towards the plot of the book. We start the episode with a flashback of Mariko and Alvito's initial meeting and her conversion to Christianity. After the intro credits, we cut to the boat with Yabu, Blackthorne and Mariko arriving in Osaka. Everyone's favourite villain Yabu gave us yet another hilarious quote. Man, Osaka has really been nothing but a problem for that guy. Moving on to the meeting, Yabu as usual is playing both sides while trying to win favour with Ishido and is shot down. Next, Mariko arrives and Toranaga's plan for her starts to unveil. They plan on forcing Ochiba and Ishido into an ultimatum. Either admit that they're prisoners or let them go. And man, I've got to give the show credit. A lot of the scenes in this episode were ripped straight out of the book. And I mean almost word for word. Even the part about the poetry competition. Mariko was glad the time had come to begin. She thought a moment. Then she said, "It should be about today, Lady Ochiba." And the first line, "on a leafless branch." Ochiba and all of them complimented her on her choice. Kiyama was genial now and said, "Excellent, but we'll have to be very good to compete with you, Mariko-san. I hope you will excuse me, sire, but I won't be competing." "Of course you'll compete," Kiyama laughed. "You're one of the best in the realm. It wouldn't be the same if you didn't." "So sorry, sire. Please excuse me, but I will not be here." "I don't understand." Ochiba said. "What do you mean, Mariko-chan?" "Oh, please excuse me, lady," Mariko said, "but I'm leaving Osaka tomorrow with the lady Kiritsubu and the lady Sazako." Page 987. When I saw this part, I was pretty shocked because it was a seemingly unimportant part of the book compared to some of the other stuff that they cut out. That's when I had a feeling they'd stick pretty closely to the book, and man, am I glad they did. There are some minor changes of course here and there that I think actually improve on the source material. For example, Ochiba and Mariko did not grow up together in the book, so she isn't as conflicted as she is in the show's version during the meeting. "I am ordered by my liege lord to escort his ladies to meet him at once." She took a scroll out of her sleeve and handed it to Ishido formally. He tore it open and scanned it. Then he looked up and said, "Even so, you will wait for a ruling from the regents." Mariko looked hopefully to Ochiba, but there was only bleak disapproval there. She turned to Kiyama. Kiyama was equally silent, equally unmoved. "Please excuse me, Lord General, but there's no war," she began. "Our master's obeying the regents, so for the next 18, this matter is closed." "This matter is closed, Lord General, when you have the manners to let me finish. I'm no peasant to be trodden on. I'm Toda Mariko no Buntaro no Hiramatsu, daughter of Lord Akechi Jinsai. My line's Takashima and we've been samurai for 1,000 years. And I say I will never be captive or hostage or confined, for the next 18 days and until the day, by fear of the exalted. I am free to go as I please, as is anyone." Page 990. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I think I'm around 55 or so subs away from 1,000, so it'll be cool to hit 1,000 subs with the finale video. Thanks for watching and back to the video. There were also these nice little moments when Blackthorne would silently be supporting Mariko. At this point in the book, they were much closer than they were in the show. While she was actually having that intense conversation with Ishido in the original, enraged, Ishido began to walk towards her. Although Blackthorne had understood almost nothing of what had been said, his right hand slid unnoticed into his left sleeve to prepare the concealed throwing knife. At that point in the book, we don't know if Mariko notices, but that night when she's mentally preparing for her departure at dawn, she remembers. Now she was remembering how, when she was standing there alone, carrying the banner alone, she had seen Blackthorne's right hand readying the throwing knife, and she had become stronger because of it. "Yes, Anjin-san," she thought. "You're the only one I knew I could count on. You were there when I needed you." Page 993. It's little moments like these that make the characters feel more real and likable, and I do wish they included them, even if it is just a little nitpick. Later on that night, Blackthorne tries to get her to change her mind about leaving. There were these nice pleasantries shared between them and even more suspense in the original. "Latin is safer, Anjin-san." Her fan sent a droning mosquito skittering. "They can hear us from here?" "No, I do not believe so. Not if we keep our voice softened and talk as thou hast taught me, with so little movement of the mouth." "Good. What occurred with Kiyama?" "I love thee. Thou. I have missed thee. And I thee. How can we meet alone? Tonight is not possible. Tomorrow night will be possible, my love. I have a plan." "Tomorrow? But what about thy departure?" "Tomorrow they may stop me, Anjin-san. Please do not worry. The next day we will all be free to leave as we wish. Tomorrow night, if I am stopped, I will be with thee." Page 1009. Then that next morning, Blackthorne gets ready to go to the gate to watch Mariko attempt to leave under the guard of 2 of Ishido's grey samurai. He isn't permitted to be alone due to his escape earlier in the story. Blackthorne says something to himself and he has a terrifying realization. The Grey's captain went to the parapet and watched below. Christ Jesus, Blackthorne was thinking. I hope she's right and Toranaga's right. Not long now, eh? He measured the sun and muttered vaguely to himself in Portuguese. Not long to go. Unconsciously, the captain grunted his agreement, and Blackthorne realized the man understood him clearly in Portuguese, was therefore Catholic and another possible assassin. His mind rushed back to last night and he had remembered that everything he had said to Mariko had been in Latin. Was it all in Latin? Page 1012. This could mean death for them both, since Buntaro was already suspicious of them and Blackthorne is a barbarian, and to top it off, she's a married woman. It also demonstrates Ishido's intelligence and craftiness to assign a god that understands Portuguese to Blackthorne. One thing I love about the scene is that it actually shows how smart and switched on Blackthorne is. Even when he's by himself surrounded by people who he wouldn't really pay attention to since they don't speak the same language, he notices the small details. That is something that I think was missing from the show's version of the character. Moving on to Mariko's valiant effort. Mariko attempts to leave with a small party of samurai and Toranaga's wife, consort and son. They are stopped by Ishido's graves and a subsequent fight ensues. Slowly but surely her party of samurai is killed one by one, leaving her alone. She decides to fight herself and is given her naginata. I'll be honest, I was a little worried before going into this episode. I thought maybe they'd make Mariko a much more capable fighter since she was shown to be capable in previous episodes. The reason this scene hits so hard is because she has the courage to fight knowing she has no chance of beating these samurai. Doing something like having her take out half of them would have taken away from the point. Wait, she called out. Everyone stopped. She half bowed to her assailant, then head high turned her back on him and walked back to Kiri. So sorry, but it's not possible to fight through these men at the moment, she said, her chest heaving. We must go back for a moment. Sweat was streaking her face as she went down the line of men. When she came to Kiyama, she stopped and bowed. Those men have prevented me from doing my duty, from obeying my liege lord. I cannot live with the shame. Sire, I will commit seppuku at sunset. I formally beg you to be my second. No, you will not do this. Her eyes flashed and her voice rang out fearlessly. Unless we are allowed to obey our liege lord, as is our right, I will commit seppuku at sunset. She bowed and walked toward the gateway. Kiyama bowed to her and his men did likewise. Then all in the avenue and on the battlements and at the windows all bowed to her in homage. She went through the archway, across the forecourt into the garden. Her footsteps took her to the secluded rustic little char house. She went inside and once alone she wept silently for all those men who had died. Just like the show, after the attempted departure is stopped, she announces her desire to commit seppuku. Another move that forces Ishido and Ochiba into an ultimatum. If they let Mariko do it, they've essentially forced her to do so by denying her to fulfill her duty, which indirectly announces to everyone that she and all the others are being unrightfully confined in Osaka as well. This would be disastrous for Ishido since it gives Toranaga the opportunity to unify people against him and paint him as a true villain. Remember, this entire thing is predicated on everyone's fears/suspicions that Toranaga wants to be Shogun. Ishido abusing his power is essentially what they were afraid Toranaga would do. Also, Ishido is lowborn, so it wouldn't be hard for him to lose support if he started acting out of turn, since most lords already looked down on him behind the scenes. I do wish they included that last part though. It showed she had compassion for those men who died pretty much pointless deaths. Sure, they did their duties in fighting for her, but ultimately accomplished nothing and were pawns in the game Toranaga, Ishido, Ochiba and Mariko were playing. That last sentence showed that while Mariko is fully capable of playing the game, she still has compassion for those being puppeteered. Moving on to the attempted seppuku. This was an interesting scene because I think they improved on it from the book and kinda simultaneously saved Mariko and Blackthorne's romance arc, or lack thereof. But first, how did it go in the original? Mariko gets ready to commit seppuku but Kiyama doesn't arrive. It seems Lord Kiyama has declined to assist me. Please, I would be honored if you would be my second. It is my honor, Yabu said. He bowed and got to his feet and stood behind her to her left. His sword sang as it slid from his scabbard. He set his 2 feet firmly and with 2 hands raised the sword. I am ready, lady, he said. Please wait until I have made the second cut. Her eyes were on the knife. With her right hand she made the sign of the cross over her breast, then leaned forward and took up the knife without trembling and touched it to her lips as though to taste the polished steel, and held the knife firmly with her right hand under the left side of her throat. At that moment, flares rounded the far end of the avenue. A retinue approached, Ishido at their head. She did not move the knife. Yabu was still a coiled spring, concentrated on the mark. Lady, he said, do you wait or are you continuing? I wish to be perfect for you. Mariko forced herself back from the brink. page 1045. In the original, Yabu is actually the one seconding Mariko, but I think changing it to Blackthorne is a great decision. Since the show has barely had any romance between them, especially in the second half, this kind of moment is exactly what was needed to reaffirm that plotline. It needed to be something significant, and what's more significant than a Christian condemning himself to hell just to absolve you of the burden of doing it yourself. It was so well done, and you can literally see the wall Mariko's put up crumble. Shout out to Anna Sawai. While I haven't been a fan of how Mariko has been depicted in most of the episodes, I falsely blamed her for the cold and monotone portrayal when it was clearly a script/directing choice. She's an excellent actress and she definitely showed it this week. I'm also glad that Blackthorne has shown a bit more agency this episode, and is being a little more of the thoughtful, cunning character that he is in the book. Ishido stood at the gateway. It's not sunset yet, lady. The sun's still on the horizon. Are you so keen to die? No, Lord General, just to obey my lord. She held her hands together to stop their shaking. A rumble of anger went through the grounds at Ishido's arrogant rudeness, and Yabu ready to leap at him, but stopped as Ishido said loudly, "The Lady Ochiba begged the regents on the behalf of the heir to make an exception in your case. We agree to her request. Here are permits for you to leave at dawn tomorrow." He shoved them into the hands of Sumiyori, who was nearby. "Sire," Mariko said, without understanding, her voice threadbare. "You are free to leave at dawn." And Kiritsubu-san and the Lady Suzuko? Isn't that also part of your duty? Their permits are also here. Mariko tried to concentrate. "And her son?" "Him too, lady." Ishido's scornful laugh echoed. "And all your men?" Yabu stammered. "Everyone has safe conducts?" "Yes, Kashigi Yabu-san," Ishido said. "Your senior officer, ne? Please go at once to my secretary. He is completing all your passes. Though why honored guests would wish to leave, I don't know. It's hardly worth it for 17 days. "And me, Lord General?" Old Lady Etsu asked weakly, daring to test the totality of Mariko's victory, her heart racing and painful. May I please leave also?" "Of course, Lady Maeda. Why should we keep anyone against their will? Are we jailers? Of course not. If the heir's welcome is so offensive that you wish to leave, then leave. Though how you intend to travel 400 ri home and then another 400 ri here in 17 days, I don't understand." Page 1046. As you can see, while there were some changes, many parts of the episode were adapted pretty closely to the book, with smart unsparing changes made here and there. I love that they kept the "Are we jailers" line. It's such an audacious line given the fact that he was quite literally confining them against their will up until moments ago. After this intense ordeal, Mariko and Blackthorne finally meet up and spend their night together, not knowing if it may be their last. Now moving on to the final moments of the episode. After the attempted seppuku scene, there were about maybe 9 minutes left, so I really didn't think they would include it in this episode. We cut to a seemingly drunk Yabu, talking to a guard on watch. He kills him and then proceeds to go to the back of the castle and let in a force of shinobi assassins, yet again betraying any and everyone who gets in his way. They seem to be looking for someone specific since they are checking the faces of people sleeping, and actually check the face of Toranaga's consort as she's holding his son and leaving her be. We get some cool scenes of Blackthorne letting his pistol rip as Mariko and the crew run to a storehouse for safety with Yabu. He's returned from the back of the castle and is now pretending to be surprised by the attack of the assassin. They hear the assassins say they're lighting a fuse, and Blackthorne struggles to move a box to obstruct the door. He begs Yabu for help but seems to be frozen in fear, regretting that he joined them in this tiny storehouse. Or perhaps he is pretending and wants the assassins to make their way in since he knows they won't kill him. Mariko uses this moment to tell Blackthorne to finally let it come and covers the door, refusing to be captured. With her final words, she condemns Ishido and protests the attack with Yabu, Blackthorne, Kiritsubu as witnesses as the door explodes. An absolutely insane ending to a straight up spectacular episode. This scene is actually a little more intense in the book if you can believe it. After they hear the assassins say that they will light the fuse, our crew actually speaks to them. He said if we open the door and surrender, everyone will go free except you. Mariko brushed a strand of hair out of her eyes. He said they want you as a hostage, Anjin-san. That's all they want. Blackthorne walked forwards to open the door, but Mariko stood pathetically in his way. "No, Anjin-san, it's a trick," she said. "So sorry, they don't want you, they want me. Don't believe them, I don't believe them." He smiled at her and touched her briefly and reached for one of the bolts. "It's not you, it's me. It's a trick, I swear it. Don't believe them, please." she said as she grabbed his sword. It was half out of its scabbard before he realized what she was doing and had caught her hand. Blackthorne realized at this moment that they were trying to take her, since if she left, it would be a complete loss of face for Ishido. "Don't give me into their hands, I have no knife, please Anjin-san." She tried to fight out of his grasp, but he lifted her out of the way and put his hand on top of the bolt. "Dozo," he said to the others, as Mariko desperately tried to stop him. Hachiko came forward, pleading with her, and Mariko tried to push her away and cried out, "Please Anjin-san, it's a trick, for the love of God." His hand jerked the top bolt open. "They want me alive," Mariko shouted wildly. "Don't you see? To capture me, don't you see? They want me alive, and then it's all for nothing. Tomorrow Toranaga's got to cross the border. I beg you, it's a trick, before God." Hachiko had her arms around Mariko, pleading with her, pulling her away, and she motioned him to open the door. "Isogi, Isogi Anjin-san." Blackthorne opened the central bolt. "For the love of God, don't make all the dying useless. Help me, remember your vow." Now the reality of what she was saying reached him, and in panic he shoved home the bolts. Now with them being trapped in the room, the head assassin got even more annoyed, especially due to the men Blackthorne had injured and killed. The man who Blackthorne had grabbed through the hole in the door and shot in the episode was actually the brother of the head assassin, and is the main reason why he's so annoyed. Now that they're committed to staying in this room, they look for an escape. Blackthorne was beating at the side door in the room relentlessly to the point where his hands were bloodied. The leader held a lighted candle in his hand, and he had laid a trail of powder to the small kegs they had brought in their haversacks to blow up the secret entrance to the cellars to secure their retreat. But he was in a dilemma. To blow the door was the only way to get through, but the Todo woman was just on the other side of the door, and the explosion would surely kill everyone inside and spoil his mission, making all their losses futile. Footsteps raced towards him. It was one of his own men. "Be quick," the man whispered. "You can't hold them off much longer." He raced away. The red spot leader decided. He waved his men to cover and shouted the warning through the door. "Get away, I'm blowing the door." He put the candle to the trail and jumped to safety. The powder spluttered, caught, and snaked for the kegs. Blackthorne yanked the side door open. Sweet night air rushed in. The woman poured onto the veranda. Old Lady Etsu fell, but he carried her and pushed her through. Whirled for Mariko, but she had pressed her back against the iron and called out firmly. "I told her, Mariko, protest this shameful attack, and by my death." He lunged for her, but the explosion blew him aside as the door wrenched loose from its hinges and blasted into the room and shrieked off the far wall. Mariko's death in the book was even more tragic. If Blackthorne had opened that door a second sooner, he may have been able to get to her in time. She also clearly made the choice to die instead of risking being captured. It was just such a sad overall scene, done fairly well in the show. I must give it respect. Obviously I think the book version was better, but the book has thousands of pages to get into more depth. The show only had 10 episodes, so all things considered I think it did well. And yeah, that's how it went down in the book. Let me know which version you prefer. Do you think Yabu was actually scared, or was he faking it so that he didn't have to help Blackthorne? I personally think he was faking it. He's shown great snake tendencies and an ability to deceive and betray, and he's also shown a stomach for battle. I doubt he doesn't seem like the type of person to freeze in the moment. He's been a sadistic killer from episode 1, so to me he was definitely playing possum. A hell of an episode, and man, I can't wait for the finale next week. And yeah, till next time.